So the state of Georgia is where we will turn our attention to next. I want to emphasize that our investigation into these issues is still ongoing. As I stated in our last hearing, if you have relevant information or documentaries to share with the select committee, we welcome your cooperation. But we will share some of our findings with you today. Secretary Rassensberger, thank you for being here today. So the state of Georgia is where.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just straighten this out here. I am going to start on that highlight from yesterday's hearing to end on yesterday's hearing. There are a few things in this world that do not provide any benefit, any insight, any added value to life. And I have now found out after 4 days of those January 6th committee hearings, they're one of them. They are stomach turningly nauseating to watch. They are radically uninformative. In fact, they are misinformative, irritating, self-gratifying, nauseating, just pure nauseating. I knew some people in our community were not interested in watching it. People were ignoring it to object to it out of protest. I thought I wanted to watch it. I thought I thought I could even turn that into something interesting. I can't. We're done with it. I might post the occasional highlight to illustrate the absolute absurdity of those hearings. 500 plus days of investigation into the events of January 6th. And you literally have like an infomercial info line. If you have any information to report on January 6th, 500 days of congressional committee investigations, thousands of hours of depositions, documents, 4 days of hearings, and they're making a public call for evidence to support the witch hunt that they have embarked upon. It's atrocious beyond words. And that public call, anybody in the public, if you have any information that might be relevant to our investigation, please send it in. That means one of two things. Either they don't have evidence to substantiate their objectives, and they're begging the public to find some, or they're begging the public to fabricate some. This is what we call the political permission slip dog whistle. Yeah. We don't have what we need, what we thought we needed in order to achieve the goals that we wanted to achieve. And so we're imploring the public, if you guys have anything, help us out. Come on, help us out. Snitch on your friends and neighbors if it's bona fide evidence. Rat out your employer. Rat out your father if you're that 19-year-old kid who secretly gave a tip to the FBI about his father's involvement in January 6th. Rat out friends, family, community. If it's bona fide, and even then, what they say about snitches, if it's bona fide evidence of criminal activity, sufficient enough, serious enough to justify destroying community, that's one thing. So they're saying either, on the one hand, we're so desperate for evidence, rat out friends and neighbors. We're appealing to the public, just get us something, please. We need to end this thing with an indictment of Trump or getting other populist GOP candidates off the ballot. Just something. Or just something. Make it up if you have to. Send us another PP dossier that the FBI can then, justify an investigation into. Send us something that's totally bunk, totally bogus, so that we can continue with our investigation and hope to find something in the process. Because as we know, if they don't get you on the charges, more often than not, they get you on the process, the investigation itself. So, done. I'm done with the congressional hearing. I may watch it on my own, when I'm looking to torture myself. So we're done with it, except to start off this stream with that Benny Thompson highlight. 500 days of investigation. Day 4 of the hearing, they're appealing to the public. Please, send something, just something. Something so that we can continue with this political witch hunt of a sham. Okay. Before I get into the other video that I was going to start this with, which is more substantively related to the topics of the day, Uvalde. The more info that comes out, the less there is to say. I mean, literally, speechless. And that ties into what's going on in Canada. Some news about the Nova Scotia shooting that occurred April of 2020, May of 2020. And I mean, the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs, people send me articles and I have to go and make sure that it's in fact a bona fide Maclean's link. Not that, not the substance of it, just that the substance of the article is so shocking that I have to make sure that it actually is an actual link to an actual Maclean's article and not like macleans.org, which is a fake news website compared to macleans.ca. The information is not known. And when I read an article, I say, holy cows, this is so mind-blowing. I have to go check to make sure it's a legit link. It's worth discussing. So that's it. We're going to talk about Uvalde, Nova Scotia. Why it seems that the citizens have to suffer as a result of the incompetence or corruption of the government. It is what I call Parkinson's law of politics. So, okay, you know what? Before we get into it, super chat number 1. Highlight from yesterday's hearing. What you smoking? I'll tell you what, I'm not smoking anymore. Anything related to that hearing. It's anybody who is watching that. It's 2 minutes of hate. It's Orwell's 2 minutes of rage or 2 minutes of hate, whatever it is. The politicians need it to distract from their own current incompetence, and the frothing, deranged individuals who need someone to hate and not the people who are currently causing their suffering, they need it. That's all it appeals to. I always said the Dems were the true... I've refrained from throwing that term around. I'll just call them dictators, tyrants. In the name of... they have to suppress democracy. They have to suppress freedom of speech in the name of democracy. They have to ban political adversaries to preserve democracy. Are you going to Ottawa for Canada Day? Also, I am going to Montreal Saturday. Let me know cool hangout spots. Neil W., I'm not sure that I'm going to get to go to Ottawa for Canada Day. Might be out of the country. Cool hangout spots in Montreal. Mount Royal is a must, absolute must. Lachine Canal, there's a place where there's a perpetual wave on the river. Beautiful as well. Best place for breakfast, bagels, etc., or Snowden Delicatessen. Visit the Olympic Stadium. The Biodome is amazing. The Eco Museum is also quite interesting. I think that's it. Super chats. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. If you do not like that and you don't want to support YouTube, we are simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Rumble today resolved one of my issues, which I couldn't have 2 pending streams at the same time. So we've resolved that, as you've noticed, because tonight we have a second stream with Armchair Warrior, where we're going to be discussing international politics and the like. Rumble has the super chat equivalent called Rumble Rants, where they take 20%. So it is better for the creator, better for the platform. Or you can support us at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. That is where Robert and I post lots of great content exclusive to supporters and lots of stuff for the general community. No medical advice, no legal advice, no election fortification advice. And I just got another notification that an Instagram video that I posted on October 29th, 2016 has been removed because apparently some greedy copyright holder of standard iTunes music, iMovie music, is now claiming copyright on videos that have been on the internet for 8 years that involved the stock music that comes with iMovie. Anyhow, not even worth getting into. Okay, so there's that. Share the link around if you are on the social medias so that people can join in late. 7 o'clock tonight, Sidebar Barnes, Armchair Warrior. It's going to be amazing. James Topp. Okay, I should just get some Canadian stuff, not out of the way, but up there. James Topp, the man who's marching across Canada to protest the COVID mandates. has marched from the Terry Fox Memorial in Vancouver to, he's now in Ottawa, but he will be completing his march to the Terry Fox Memorial in Ottawa. He's now in Ottawa today meeting with some MPs. I was going to go down and stream in person, but apparently where they're doing the interview, the rabble streamers would not have been let in. So I didn't want to drive down for no good reason. I've had James Topp on the channel a couple of times, if not a few times. And it's a story worth following. He's now meeting with certain MPs. They're going to have some press releases. CanadaMarches.ca, James Topp, T-O-P-P. Nomen S. Omen. The name is an omen. James Topp doing the outrageously amazing in support of what he believes, marching across Canada for the last 100+ days. Wait, there's a place in Montreal called Mount Royal. Isn't that literally just the same name, but in English? So Montreal, first of all, I believe it's the largest freshwater island in the world. If I'm not mistaken, Montreal is an island. St. Lawrence River goes around it, and I'm fairly certain it's the largest freshwater island in the world. Freshwater island. Montreal consists of 3 mountains: Mount Royal, the summit in Westmount, and the cemetery. Extinct volcanoes, and there is a Mount Royal Park, which is literally Mount Royal Mountain. Montreal itself, I don't know what the history is of the word. Are there any lib? Who is meeting with, I do not know who the MPs are that are meeting with James Topp. I would be shocked, pleasantly surprised if there were any Liberal or NDP MPs going to meet with James Topp. I don't know. We'll find out. But I'd be shocked. Which is a perfect segue into, hold on, did I see Nate Brody in the house? Here we go. Uvalde police are cowards and liars. They need to go. This is Nate Brody. Not just a lawyer, not just a former professor, a former cop, YouTuber. Everyone knows Nate the lawyer, Nate Brody. Nate, thank you very much. And we'll get into it. But for now, it was, are any NDP Liberal MPs going to meet with James Topp? I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked because they are... where did my link go? Oh, great. Now I don't have my link. Oh, no, I do have it. I'd be shocked because they are led by a man who is not just incompetent, not just corrupt. I am going to say dishonest, insincere, and a hypocrite that would make Hippocrates. I don't know who originated with the term hypocrite. I think I know where it comes from. A hypocrite of epic, monumental, and unfathomable proportions. Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the New Democrat Party. Jagmeet Singh, the man who has coalitioned, formed an unholy alliance of hell with the Liberals, with Justin Trudeau, a 2-time ethics breaching, 3 times ethics alleged violating, corrupt, immoral tyrant. The NDP, under the watch of Jagmeet Singh, have teamed up. So the two, it's a minority government. They formed effectively a majority government to prop up the Liberals until 2025 instead of triggering an election now. We just had one in September, but they don't want to trigger an election now because Jagmeet Singh knows that his role of leader of the party is in great danger. There's arguments that he wants to delay the next election so that he can acquire his required 6 years of government service to qualify for pension. There's an argument there. We don't know. You never know intentions. You just know facts that Jagmeet Singh, I believe, qualifies for pension shortly before the next federal election will be triggered because of the union between the NDP and the Liberals to prop them up until then. This guy, the one you're looking at right here, Jagmeet Singh, and their party, the NDP, have unified with the Liberals to prop them up to avoid triggering another election. He is supporting Justin Trudeau in office. And he tweets this, when was it? Yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Gaslighting dishonesty. Listen to this.
Over 10,000 days have passed since the people of Nishnawbe have had clean drinking water. Over 10,000 days without something that people count for normal in communities across this country. But for the people,
Got to stop you there. Drinking water, not people count for normal across this country. Across a civilized world meaning a government that has the ability to provide this infrastructure, does it. Clean drinking water, he's talking about providing dental care as a right. Clean drinking water in a normal, responsible country is a right. 10,000 days. He's lamenting the fact that 10,000 days, certain communities, certain Indigenous communities do not have clean drinking water, are still under water boil advisories.
They've not had clean drinking water for over 2 decades. This is a complete and abject failure of leadership. This government has to acknowledge that this failure must be remedied. This is a complete and abject failure of leadership.
It is a complete and abject failure of leadership that he chose to support, unify with, to keep in power for another 3 years. I mean, how much worse can it possibly get?
This government has to acknowledge that this failure must be remedied. So when will this government ensure that the people of Nishnawbe and all First people of this land have access to clean drinking water?
Here, you buffoons. Here, you buffoons. This guy is the one who's now propping up Justin Trudeau. You want to affect change, Jagmeet? You trigger an election and you let the people vote against the guy who promised clean drinking water to the Indigenous communities in 2015, and 7 years later, there are still 35 communities that have boil water advisories in effect. They don't have clean drinking water. The problem may be complex. The problem may be political, but the problem's not that complex. In fact, the solutions are, one of three or a variation thereof. We can find hundreds of millions of dollars to finance and fund foreign wars, but we can't find hundreds of millions of dollars to provide clean drinking water to First Nations, Indigenous peoples in Canada. Oh, and then you feign outrage. He feigns the outrage. Remove. He feigns the outrage of this incompetent government that he has now vowed to support. Oh, but his argument is going to be, I'm doing my best. I'm holding their feet to the fire. No, you're not. You're supporting them. You are supporting them. You are now the incompetent government that is responsible for the Indigenous not having clean drinking water. You get out there and you virtue signal like an absolute, can't finish the sentence. Drives his BMW, has more designer bikes than a normal person should have, quoting from an actual article. Took his third pay raise, his third salary increase during this pandemic. Comes out there, it's an incompetent, corrupt government. They've rigged the system against you. Well, you know what? Huey Long, not that I agree with everything he said. I'm just now listening to his biography. Not that I agree with everything Huey Long said, but he walked the walk and he talked the talk. He didn't just talk the talk and behind closed doors buy designer suits and line his own pockets. Jagmeet Singh talks the talk and then behind closed doors goes and pats the very same corrupt and unethical government on the back and props them up, cleans their feet. Oh, yeah. He's a man of the people. A man of the people. We need affordable housing here. Clean drinking water. What am I going to do? I'm going to prop up the corrupt government because my own self-interest is worried about my own leadership of the party. And I know if that an election gets triggered now, I'm probably ousted as leader. Okay. Why wouldn't drinking water be a local problem? There are a number of issues as to why this is still a persisting problem. The issue is that it's on native reserves, Indigenous reserves, First Nations land. Don't even know what the politically correct term for it. It's on native land reserves, which are sort of autonomous in a sense, but under the federal jurisdiction under the Indian Act, and that's what it's called. It's called the Indian Act. So there are some politics involved as to who would be responsible for that. Who would be responsible for bringing infrastructure onto reserves where the reserves were specifically set up so that Indigenous peoples could retain autonomy, retain independent land. But it's not complicated. It's pipes, it's wells, or it's water purification plants. I mean, the government can find literally hundreds of millions of dollars to finance foreign wars with extremely complex, expensive weapons of war. How about you, instead of financing weapons of war out in Eastern Europe, you finance wells of peace and wells of water for the Indigenous people who you've promised to them since 2015. I had a interesting discussion, a Twitter back and forth with someone online. They accused me of being misinformed because under the Liberal government, they've lifted 100 some odd water boil advisories. There's only 35 left. There's only 35 communities in Canada that don't have clean drinking water. Only is not the word I would be using right there. Outrageous. It's outrageous when it's in Flint, Michigan. It's outrageous when it's on Indigenous lands in Canada. 7 years and you can't fix clean drinking water? I mean, that's beyond incompetence. That's criminal. Allegedly, in my humble opinion, #no defamation, criminal. But Jagmeet's there boy. Jagmeet is keeping Justin in power. He in the debate on the invocation of the Emergencies Act, in the debate where Justin Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act to violently suppress the most peaceful protest Canada has ever seen, Jagmeet Singh, in his speech, says Trudeau has failed in his response in every respect, incompetent government, but I'm going to go vote to allow them to use the nuclear weapon of legislation in Canada to suppress civil rights, to violently quell peaceful protest. They're terrible, incompetent. They've screwed up every step along the way. So what do? Let's give them more powers to screw up even more now. Jagmeet, you're to blame. Shame on you. But there can be no shame where there is no pride. And I genuinely feel you have no shame, you have no pride, you have no conscience. It is all political warfare. And what you're interested in is not what is in the best interest of Canadians. I feel a little better now. Okay, good. That accent sounds like Bob Doug McKenzie, brother. You're talking about my accent, eh? There were 2 super chats that I saw here. STFU, another one, FFS. Hear me out. A lot of people, not just the bad, the worst of the worst, loved children turning in their parents. Communists, Mao Zedong, fascists. It's what happens when the government takes over what are the fundamental pillars of a free and democratic society. The government comes in, takes over education, takes over religion, takes over family. And by takes it over, I mean destroys and rebuilds itself as the pillar. Yeah, whether or not it was by design or by accident, shutting down schools, the government shutting down schools, the government telling people they can't celebrate religious holidays, they can't celebrate with family. And in Canada, they did it too. Get neighbors to rat out neighbors. Get everyone to hate each other so that the only entity that can govern it is your new god, the government. As for the rest of that, STFU, FFS, thank you for the super chat. Yeah. I'm just reading some of the chats here to see if I can bring up some. Oh, 540 watching on James Topp. James starting to speak. They're streaming now. I have a feeling that that's going to be of particular interest to Canadians. Go watch it. It'll be there afterwards. Or go watch it now and come back to me. I'll be here afterwards, and you can watch the rerun. Shame on me. Not sure what that's in reference to, but if I've done something wrong, let me know. Okay, so that's for the Canadian side of it. Jagmeet Singh, 10,000 days. Okay, we're gonna cancel that. Oh, what else? Uvalde. It's another one of those things that the more that comes out, the more incomprehensible it becomes. Here, let's start with this one. The hearings were yesterday, and they're revealing there's information where it's to some extent a community failure in terms of what was known beforehand, who this murderous individual was. And then it leads into an egregious, incompetent failing by the police. And, you know, I put out a video breaking down Officer Tatum's analysis of one of the witnesses, victims on scene, who said that she had to go into the school because the police were not doing anything. He was defending the police, and people were accusing him of reflexively defending the police. But we're getting so much information now. It goes from bad to worse, and it's so bad. You know that it will cause certain people to go down certain rabbit holes to look for explanations to explain the inexplicable. Let's just read one of the articles. This is Texas Tribune. The Uvalde gunman threatened people online, was known but from the community to do the worst things to animals, the things that are typically, if not very often indicative of people who are going to go on to do bad things against people. Start with animals, and I'm not sure if it's cause and effect, getting used to the sentiment, or it's just where you start because that's where kids go before they can escalate their horrific propensities. But this individual, and the name need not ever be mentioned, was known to harass people online, was known to be seen carrying a bag of deceased cats around town. And apparently this was or was not reported to authorities, and I think it wasn't. A failing of community, or it was, and nobody can do anything until they can do something. Here we go. But these threats hadn't been discovered by parents, friends, and teachers. They'd seen by strangers, many of whom had never met him and found him only through social. These are some of the messages online. Let me just see where that part is. Posting images online, by the way, this is also what happened with that guy from Canada who posted videos online, had an entire community of people trying to find this individual. And the individual, sure as sugar, went on to do something terrible to a human, live streamed it. So a community failing in some sense. But then you get into a situation of the police failing. And this we can go into in a little bit more detail because it's just, there's no way to make it make sense. Whether or not the police waited outside for 45 minutes or 90 minutes, they waited outside for an extensive period of time while all of this went down. And it seems that some of them might have misled as to whether or not doors were locked. This is from Forbes, not from me, so take it from Forbes. Uvalde classroom door wasn't locked, and police didn't try to open it without a key. Texas law enforcement official testifies. The Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McGraw issued a scathing assessment Tuesday of local law enforcement's response to the elementary school shooting. The door was not locked to a classroom where the suspect was holed up as officers spent crucial minutes searching for a key. They were searching for a key, apparently, allegedly, while they were fully armed, shielded, and not busting down that door. McGraw testified during a Texas Senate hearing. The door could not be locked from the inside, and there was no indication that officers even attempted to try to open the door while the suspected shooter did what he did for however long he had to do it. Testified that local law enforcement had enough officers on scene to stop the shooter 3 minutes after he entered the building, calling the response an abject failure that was antithetical to active shooter protocols developed over the past 2 decades. So what we're seeing here now, it's a failure of the police on the scene. Could have stopped 3 minutes after he entered the building, and he was in there. If it's not 90 minutes, it's 45 minutes. We're finding out that apparently the resource officer of Uvalde wasn't there or was off that day. We're finding out that the doors were not locking in the school, that they had no protection in the school, apparently despite the fact that some of the teachers were requesting this in the months leading up to this incident. We're finding out so many things above and beyond what we were initially told, that the police were not only not entering and not taking action for however long while assessing the situation, they were preventing others from doing it. And the horror stories, the pure torture above and beyond all of the other horror stories here, the pure torture of those people who were physically restrained outside. And now we're finding it. And by the way, despite all of this, or even before all of this, you have Joe Biden unquestionably at this point in time supporting the police. Unquestionably, no need to look here, move away, nothing to see here. Let's go raise the school so that we can destroy whatever evidence there might be of inadequate safety protocol in the school. Let's trust the police this time. We want to defund them sometimes. We want to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. In other cases, politically motivated. Let's forget about it this time and guess whether or not that differential treatment is itself politically motivated. Let's see what other issues there were. Resource officer missing. Safety issues at the school that were known and complained about by teachers. They could have stopped the individual. This is not me saying it. Where did it say they could have stopped him in the minutes? Here. In 3 minutes, could have stopped it. Not me saying this. Forbes. The only thing stopping a hallway of dedicated officers from entering room 111 and 112 was the on-scene commander. The on-scene commander, Uvalde District Police Chief Pete Arredondo, has faced intense criticism for waiting over an hour for additional tactical teams and equipment after he made the decision that the suspect was barricaded in and wasn't an active shooter. Well, hey, I was wrong. No, sorry. My apologies. I made a mistake. Instead of stopping something 3 minutes into it, at the risk that would have entailed for the police officers who sign up for this, train for this, live for this, and that is why they are there. Instead, I made a mistake. Oopsie daisies. Mea culpa. McGraw revealed that the only radios that worked inside of the west portion of the school where officers were gathered belonged to U.S. Border Patrol agents, and that Arredondo didn't have his radio with him to begin with, but even if he did, McGraw said it wouldn't have worked. Listen to this big number. 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds. I mean, they have to say it like that to be dramatic. That's 75 minutes. That's how long children were inside one of the classrooms with the shooter. Listen to this. McGraw said a hooligan tool that firefighters used to force open doors was available 8 minutes after police arrived on the scene, and that at least one ballistic shield arrived on the scene 19 minutes after the gunman entered the school. Critical quote, Arredondo waited for a radio and rifles, McGraw said. Then he waited for shields. Then he waited for SWAT. Lastly, he waited for a key that was never needed. Atrocious. It's atrocious. And what ends up happening in all of this, and this is going to bring us into some Canadian stuff, the Canadian Nova Scotia shooting. What ends up happening after all of this? It's incompetence at the very least, corruption not even at the very worst, or let your imaginations flow as to what it could be at the very worst. What happens after all of this? Don't ask any of the questions as to why security was lacking at the school. Don't ask any questions as to why the police. Abject failure is an understatement of the millennium. Okay? Don't ask any questions about the police response. What do? Politicize it for the only reason that you want to exploit this tragedy for: gun control. And that is not to say that might not be part and parcel of a global solution, something to discuss. But that is not, as far as I'm concerned, that may be one of the issues here. There may be some questions to ask as to how this individual could have ever procured what he allegedly procured. The officers waited there for 75 minutes. And the thing to be investigated now and controlled at all costs is the gun control question. Okay. Let's just get to some super chats. Last of the Mohicans actor and American Indian Russell Means said that the worst thing that happened to the Indian people of the U.S. are the Democrats. Last of the Mohicans is one of the most beautiful movies ever made as well. Music is the best music you're ever going to see in cinematic history. Right up there with Braveheart and, well, I'll think of something else. Okay, we've seen that. The unemployed dropout spent, is that 10,000 or 100,000? That's 10,000 in cash in 3 days. I do not believe Uvalde happened due to incompetence. And then Madame Von Kook, nice to see you again. Actually, I think it might have been a little while. You're going to have people who look at this and say that there's no other way. You can't explain it through incompetence. Incompetence doesn't last 75 minutes. I mean, you're going to have people believe this, and then you're going to have other people, the bad faith players in this, go look at the Madame Von Kooks and say, Madame Von Kook, that's a kooky theory. You're a conspiracy theorist. The solution has always only been one thing, and you trying to distract from that debate makes you part of the problem. That's how they're going to spin this. There are going to be people who are going to look at this and see no other way to see this. And I'm not sure how there is another way to see this. There's only so much that can be explained away by incompetence. Cops tried to arrest the Custom Border Patrol, who stopped it. Using tragedy to justify controlling people who aren't related to the tragedy is an insult to. It's a double victimization of the victims, and not just that. It will allow people to believe that there is political profit to be had by allowing these things to happen. And I'm not suggesting that anyone allowed this to happen in a concerted, deliberate, conspiratorial sense, but they allowed it to happen in that they waited there for 75 minutes and allowed it to happen. And now they want to politically profit from their own, I think it's criminal decision to allow it to happen for 75 minutes. They want to politically profit off that by using it as a pretext to tackle another political issue. You cannot blame people for now thinking, for having certain thoughts about this. Oh, and by the way, while they're having this hearing, they're having the January 6th. That's a distraction. That I agree is a political distraction because it's intended to be one. While they're having these hearings, which were, I think they were public. I know that people were live tweeting them. I don't know if they were televised in like the C-SPAN sense, but while they're having that, they're having January 6th. Don't look at police waiting for 75 minutes in what they knew was an active shooter situation when they had at least one ballistic shield soon entering it. Ballistic shield, by the way, I presume they have bulletproof vests. Bulletproof vests. I don't know if those count as ballistic vests. I don't know. I'm not definitely out of my wheelhouse in terms of expertise. You had police officers ready and willing to take the risk to save lives. And you had one bumbling, incompetent, or corrupt, malicious idiot without his radio deciding to wait 75 minutes. And then they're going to, and then take that and just set aside all of that. I mean, there's going to be hearings. There's going to be hearings in tandem with January 6th committee hearing distractions, in tandem with the strongest push to enact even more gun control laws, as if this resulted from an absence of existing law that probably could have or ought to have dealt with it. At this point, the DA needs to start investigating these police officers for criminal charges. Much love, Viva. Do you have any thoughts on Pierre Poilievre? His messaging for making Canada the freest country in the world while maintaining firearm license registration seems a bit contradictory. He tweeted something else out that was somewhat contradictory. He might be the best option the Conservatives are going to get. I won't vote for him or the Conservatives until they actually do things to ever deserve my vote. But he's saying the right things now that it's becoming a little bit more politically expedient to do so. Roman Baber is the one who I think has been saying and walking the walk and talking the talk from the beginning. Roman Baber, member of provincial parliament, submitted a bill to cut MPs' salaries so long as they locked people down and so long as they put people out of work due to COVID. The MPPs in Ontario then flipped the bill around and said, well, we're going to cut your salary and vote on that. And they tried to do that as a joke. But Roman Baber has been talking the talk from before it was popular to do so. But I don't mind Poilievre. He's a smart guy, and he's had some good highlights in his interrogations of Justin Trudeau. Many rural communities don't have clean water from the tap. I grew up in one. Trucking water or buying jugs is a part of life. No advisories, people know. That's another thing, by the way. Bring in bottled water. How much water can you get for $100 million? There are so many solutions to that problem. It's the fact that they haven't found them for everyone is outlandish. Mutually assured destruction is the only rational solution to the evil possible by people and governments alike. So let me see if I didn't have another article on Uvalde. I think we already saw this one. Yeah, this is by the way, everyone in the locals community, and this is for supporters and members alike, so non-supporters. I posted all of the links to all of the articles and all of the tweets that I'm referencing today, so you can check out the articles for yourselves. Just to make, if I've made a mistake, by the way, and if I cited a bunk article, I would like to know so that I could correct myself. But I do my best to double check not to make a mistake, to avoid making a mistake. Let me go see what's on Rumble if there's anything there. There is no Rumble rant to report on, but there are some interesting comments. So, speaking of the government, not being transparent in their investigation, exploiting the most egregious of tragedies for political gain. Because what was the timeline? Actually, hold on, let me see here. Let's go share. What was the timeline on the Nova Scotia shooting? Of the Nova Scotia shooting to Justin Trudeau's order in council. Nova Scotia mass shooting. When was it? Let's just go here. Date. Oh, April. So April 2020. Okay, that's the date when it occurred. And Trudeau order in council. Firearms. Let's just go with rifles. That might be better. No. Here, May 4th. April to May. Yeah, it was barely 3 weeks. Barely 2 weeks later. Trudeau announces ban on 1,500 types of assault-style firearms, effective immediately. So it was barely 2 weeks after the incident. What are we at here? We're at May 1st, and the date of that was April 18th. Not even 2 weeks. And, don't talk about how that situation occurred. Move on, because there's only one problem to that. More gun laws in Canada, as if the individual in that incident didn't already break existing laws to acquire those firearms, among other very suspicious things. Listen to this. This is one of those things where someone sends you an article. STFU FFS. Viva, I still don't understand how the Nova Scotia guy got an official police uniform. That smells very fishy. Well, STFU FFS. Good segue into this article. Someone sent me, and I'm like, holy crab apples. Is this actually a Maclean's article? Not right now. Maclean's. This is from macleans.ca. Nova Scotia shooter case has hallmarks of an undercover operation. This is not Alex Jones, or the Canadian equivalent of Alex Jones, whom I'm certain some people would like to consider me that. This is Maclean's. This is Maclean's, June 2020. Suffice to say that I don't think most people are aware of the facts or the alleged details in this article from macleans.ca. You know what? Just so everybody can be satisfied with the source, Maclean's News. Just so everybody knows how reputable Maclean's is. Canada's magazine since 1905. Okay, this is not some ex-lawyer in his basement citing a blog. This is Maclean's. The Nova Scotia shooter has hallmarks of an undercover operation. Police sources say the killer's withdrawal of $475,000 was highly irregular. Let me pull a PewDiePie. You don't say. And how an RCMP agent would get money. By Paul Palango, Stephen Mayer, Shannon Gormley, June 19, 2020. This story was last updated June 23, 2020. The withdrawal of $475,000. Sorry, another detail. In cash. In cash. I don't think I can withdraw. Well, I probably could. Who knows? I don't have that. But the man who killed 2012 Nova Scotians in April matches the method the RCMP uses to send money to confidential informants and agents. I don't care about the individual's name, was responsible for the largest incident in Canadian history. According to sources close to the police investigation, the money came from CIBC, that's the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, one of Canada's top big five. Intria, a subsidiary of the chartered bank that handles currency transaction. Sources in both banking and the RCMP say the transaction is consistent with how RCMP funnels money to its confidential informants and agents and is not an option available to private banking customers. I'm not a private banking customer in the first place to even know what those rules are. Listen to this, by the way. You want to talk about wordsmithing for the sake of convenience. The RCMP has repeatedly stated that it had no special relationship. I'd like to know what that special what does special mean there? What does special mean? Does it mean favorable? Does it mean regulated? Does it mean disclosed? What does special relationship mean? They reiterated the statement during an interview with the Toronto Star published online and in its print version on Monday, saying the government had no special relationship with the RCMP whatsoever. He had no. Now there's a double qualification. No special relationship whatsoever. Did he have any relationship? I mean, if there was a journalist who had the ear of the litigator to follow up, okay, did he have any relationship? Was he known? I don't know if they asked that question. The investigation has not uncovered any relationship between the gunman and the RCMP outside of an estranged familial relationship and two retired RCMP members. Well, now I'm even more curious. If it goes from no special relationship to not uncovering any relationship, what was the need of the qualifier special in the first place? According to the story, Campbell said the reason for the large withdrawal was confirmed, was not fully known. However, there are indications that near the time of the withdrawal, the gunman believed that due to the worldwide pandemic, that his financial assets were safer under his control. It's interesting. His assets would be safer under his control. And what did he think would happen after doing what he did? What would happen to his assets then? Campbell declined to be interviewed by Maclean's on Friday prior to this story's publication online and again on Tuesday. So you have Maclean's, one of Canada's most reputable publications, raising this issue. If Wortman, if he was an RCMP informant or agent, it could explain why the force appeared not to take action on complaints about his illegal guns and his assault on his common law wife. Oh, sorry. So we should probably read this paragraph as well. Court documents show he owned a New Brunswick registered company called Berkshire Broman, the legal owner of two of his vehicles, including one of his police replica cars. Whatever the purpose of the company, there is no public evidence that it would have been able to move large quantities of cash. He ran a denturous business, and there's no reason to believe it would also require him to handle large amounts of cash. We're going to get into the replica police car, the more police incompetence, a la Uvalde, in a second. Just bear that in mind now, by the way. He was wearing an RCMP uniform, driving a replica, if they say it's a replica, RCMP car, withdrew $475,000 cash, such that Maclean's is asking or inquiring whether or not he was some form of informant. A Mountie familiar with the techniques used by the force in undercover operations, but not with the details of the investigation into the incident, says he could have collected his own money from Brinks as a private citizen. He could not have collected his own money from Brinks as a private citizen. There's no way a citizen can just make arrangements like that, he said in an interview. He added the transaction is consistent with the Mounties' experience in how the RCMP pays its assets. With our tax dollars, by the way, but just set that aside. $475,000 cash withdrawal. A second Mountie who does not know the first one, but who also has been involved in CI operation, also believed that the ability to withdraw a large sum of money is an indication that he had a link with the police. That's tradecraft, the Mountie said, explaining that by going through the CIBC Intria, the RCMP could avoid typical banking scrutiny as there are no holds placed on the money. That's what we do when we need flash money for a buy. We don't keep stashes of money around the office when we suddenly need a large sum of money to make or buy something. That's the route we take. I think you've proved that with that single fact that he had a relationship with police, he was either a CI or an agent. We can go on with that, but I'm not sure that we need to. And I don't know if I have the timeline. I wanted to get to the timeline of this event. When they talk about, so there's the issue that this guy, according to those who know better, was probably an informant or potentially an informant, knows the banking system, knows that you can't just take $475,000 in cash out of a bank account, even if you have private banking, which means that you're wealthy and whatever. That's one highly suspicious element. This is another example, this incident, where the police incompetence or corruption in failing to disclose to the public that this multiple murderer was in police uniform, failed to disclose that for 10 hours when they knew it. Why? I don't know. I can imagine, and I can imagine a number of things that might solicit certain name calling for hypothesizing. 10 hours. They did not report that this individual was in a replica police car wearing what seems to be an authentic police uniform. Do you think people might have governed themselves differently if they had known that? Was it not disclosed to preserve the investigation? Was it not disclosed to make the public more safe? Because it clearly didn't work for the people that subsequently met that guy in uniform in a police car and thought he was bona fide police. I'll get to the timeline afterwards. Actually, let's just go back to this McLean's article. When you come into my branch and you want a ton of cash, then I say, you got to give us a couple of days. We put in our Brinks order. I order the money through Brinks. Then we get the money arrives. You come back into the branch. I bring you into a room and I count the money out for you. Sending someone to Brinks to get the money, I've never heard of that before. So we got the payment suspicious. This is interesting. The RCMP operations manual, a copy of which was obtained by McLean's, authorizes the force to mislead all but the courts in order to conceal the identity of confidential informants and agent sources. The identity of a source must be protected at all times, except when the administration of justice requires otherwise, except when they require otherwise. So you can mislead them to the extent they don't require the identity. Let's see. So McLean's reported earlier this week that sources say had a social relationship with Hell's Angels, with a neighbor, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't matter. All of this is outrageous. But while all of this is still going on and before any of this is disclosed to the public, what does Justin Trudeau do? Order in council. 1,500 assault-style weapons. Wortman purchased guns illegally. Listen to this, by the way. How the Nova Scotia mass shooter smuggled his guns into Canada. So that leads us to conclude that what he did was already illegal. He purchased them from a friend. He purchased the handguns illegally. Get that here. Yeah, these are here we go. National Post, another reputable news outlet. New documents detail the guns, all illegally obtained. Justin Trudeau, the apologizer in chief, the exploiter of tragedy in chief, 11 days after the incident, abuses of his power of prime minister and executive order in the dead of night during a pandemic to issue an executive order to address this incident, notwithstanding the fact that all were illegally obtained. All illegally obtained. Let's go make some more laws, because surely more laws are going to prevent what was already illegal when it was performed at the time. The Nova Scotia man was heavily armed with 2 semi-automatic rifles, 2 pistols, special ammunition box designed to carry extra bullets when he began his rampage. In addition to weapons they believe he used, Wortman was found with a service pistol of RCMP Constable Heidi Stevenson, who he had killed earlier in the shootout. Let me just see where it says there's other. Okay. According to the briefing memo, the Colt was sourced to a California gun shop, illegally smuggled into Canada. The Mini 14 purchased legally in Canada, but it's unlikely that it was bought by the dude who did not have any firearm license. It's such an amazing thing. In response to someone who smuggled firearms illegally into Canada, acquired them illegal because he hadn't gone through the requisite training, what do? Impose laws that penalize those who went through the training, who acquired them legally, and to maintain and own them lawfully and safely. And by the way, I recall at the time, people were talking about this. I specify the firearms used. Specify how he got them. Were they legal? Were they illegal? I remember this not happening at the time. And then 11 days later, Justin Trudeau sees his opportunity and seizes his opportunity. Let's see here. I missed here this. I'm just going to star some super chats so I can get back to them without missing them. At best, they exploited a tragedy. At worst, they orchestrated one. Either way, these are terrible people. And that's the issue. You'll never know. To come out and say it was deliberately planned, it doesn't matter. Planned, co-opted, or exploited after the fact differ only in intent, not in outcome. Although the remedy would be different depending on which it was. Any officer who complied with the the CO's order should be charged as an accessory and serve life sentences the gunman would have. Let me see here. Okay, I'm going way back. Oh, I didn't put chat on slow-mo. That's what my problem was. Darn it. Yeah, whatever. I'll get back to it in a second. Okay, let me see here. I might have missed some super chats, so I'll apologize in advance if I did. Let's just get to these. 11 days after, the dust has not even settled. We don't. Some people know, by the way. It's not as though the people making those decisions don't know that all were illegally obtained. They know. They just don't want us to know, because if we knew that, we might not be so on board with their knee-jerk reflex solution to a different problem that doesn't actually exist in this particular case. It was not legally obtained firearms that were the result of this. If we found out and we knew at the time they were all illegally obtained, well, my goodness, Sir Trudeau, what is that new order in council going to do to make sure that this never happens again? Nothing. It's going to be the unfortunate answer. But political opportunity awaits. Gun laws are enforced by guns. The most pro-gun person is the person who uses the guns. How can one trust government after the 20th century? How can one trust government ever? How can anyone trust government? If people think people have a propensity to do bad, let's just say you think 20% of the, let's be optimistic. 10% of the population are untrustworthy a-holes. Do you think that 10% is going to be lesser or greater in government? If you can't trust private enterprise because they're corrupt and unethical, why on earth does anyone think government is going to be any less corrupt or any less unethical? Trust them the same. I would say private enterprise only responds, has different interests and therefore can be predicted to behave a certain way more than the government. More laws won't do. And don't call me Shirley. Even if the government doesn't have anything to do with it, the government should sit back and ask why people would believe it. Now, I'm not sure exactly in respect of what that is, but Norm, thank you for the chat. And then Heart Tackle. Just wanted to say hi and happy belated Father's Day. When are we going fishing? We'll see what the summer holds. Heart Tackle sent me some stuff and it was good. It's definitely, I know where I'm going to use that tackle. Heart. TS says, I hear Viva ran for office once. As my grandmother would say, TS, I ran for office twice. The first and the last time. Although I shouldn't say that because I might run for office again in the future at some point, at some time. Who knows? Shouldn't say never. I ran for office. People's Party of Canada. I got 1,503 votes in Westmount. It was an amazing learning experience. Oh God, my ears hurt. So let's just get back to the Wortman story, the story that most people don't know the details of, even to this day, despite its impact in terms of law. What's the article I'm on? It's the New York Post. Hold on, let me just bring this down here. Remove, bring back up. Oh no, I lost it. Damn it. Hold on. Here we go. Bring it on. Bring it up. Details are contained. Okay, I think we've read them. Enough of this. The Mini 14 was not a restricted weapon at the time of the shooting, restricted firearm at the time of the shooting, but would still have required a firearms license. The Liberal changes in May have since banned that weapon. Oh, look at that. Banned a lawful weapon, if I would say firearm, ban a lawful gun because someone obtained it illegally and then used it for illegal purposes. Let's apply that argument, mutatis mutandis, to anything other than a gun. Hipwell said that while the rifle is used internationally by some police, for most Canadian owners, it's a hunting rifle. The Colt carbine rifle would have given the individual the same firepower as RCMP officers, but officers generally don't use that rifle. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, I think we got the picture of this one. The briefing, okay, this is an interesting thing because I don't know if most people know this. In Canada, magazine capacity is limited to 5 rounds. I'm fairly certain, at least 5 rounds for rifles or long arms. The briefing memo also mentions, quote, overcapacity ammunition boxes sourced outside of Canada. Hipwell said that likely means they were equipped with magazines allowing to fire more bullets than he normally would have been able to. In Canada, the pistols would have been limited to 10 bullets, but the American version would carry as many as 18. The rifles would be limited to 5. Okay, so pistols, small arms, 10 rounds, and rifles are limited to 5. If you're duck hunting, limited to 3. And I think that has to do more with safety of duck hunting than anything else. He would have been able to carry more. So all illegal or illegally obtained. And what does Trudeau do? Comes in, bans what was hitherto legal, that was illegally obtained and illegally used, and thinks that that's going to resolve the problem. It will give him some political goodwill to the people who say guns are bad, ban them at all costs, as though that would have even prevented this. Wortman smuggled in the firearms illegally. So surely limiting the rights of law-abiding citizens will resolve that problem. I mean, I talked about it yesterday. Small arm violence is up 60%, despite the strictest gun laws anywhere. I mean, it's insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And insanity is also Trudeau's government. This is what I want to show. Timeline. So again, nobody takes my word for it. Okay. It started at 10 p.m. April 19. Multiple. I mean, I'll link this. This one I didn't actually send in the chat at Locals. Here, check this out. The main point. When do they disclose to the public that the individual is driving a replica police car wearing an RCMP uniform? Okay, this is 8:54 the next morning, 10 o'clock to 8 o'clock. That is, no good at math, 10 hours. let's just see, when is the first time that they mention? Here we go. 10:17 a.m. 12 hours after the police know what's going on. First time. Police share publicly for the first time via Twitter that the gunman may be driving a vehicle that looks like an RCMP cruiser and wearing what appears to be an RCMP uniform. You want to explain to me how that happens? And maybe if people were to fully appreciate that, maybe if the media were to focus on that, maybe they'd have more questions as to how the hell the police let that go for 12 hours without telling the public. And by the way, I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think it's venturing too far out on the limb. They knew it at the time. They knew it pretty much right from the get-go. And for the very least, they knew it pretty early on. And this is similar, mutatis mutandis, to Uvalde. They knew pretty early on what was going on, and they didn't act. And how many people could have been saved had they known to avoid someone driving a replica police car wearing an RCMP uniform? How many people could have been saved? But let's not investigate that. Let's not investigate how Wortman took out $475,000 cash from the bank. Let's not investigate how he procured all of these firearms illegally, because we have laws. I mean, people don't break. Let's not investigate any of that. Let's have Justin Trudeau in hiding during a pandemic issuing executive orders to further restrict the rights of law-abiding citizens who have done everything according to the law and continue to do so. I grew up in SoCal. I grew up in Southern California with a-holes everywhere. Moved to Northern Ohio. Polite society. Everyone carries in Ohio. Now, Captain Cook, I'm just a funny anecdote, a funny expression, and it's not in reference to you because I believe I like you. I think I've seen you before. Someone said, if you run into an a-hole in the morning, they're the a-hole. If you run into a-holes all day long, then you might be it might be your perspective that's the problem. I'm not saying that in respect to that, just that your comment made me think of that. In Southern California, I have heard things, as I have in New York, of New Yorkers in New York and people who leave New York to go elsewhere because of the mentality. I'm familiar with California, not to say that I might call them. There's a dynamic out there. Indeed. Okay. Now, what was that? I saw another yellow one here. Here we go. And this looks like it's from Australia. It is. Let's see. Something to look up. The election of Ricky Muir, Australia 2013 senator, elected on 0.51% of the vote. His election brought about Australian politics changing their system to make it harder for small parties. Longreach Jones. Interesting. Las Vegas. Memory hold. So that's it. They screw up. It's either incompetence or worse. Don't investigate the incompetence. The government exploits the incompetence, exploits the tragedy to enact further laws, to further empower, to further expand the very same incompetent government that allowed this to happen in the first place. Surely that's going to solve the problem. It won't, and I'll stop calling you all Shirley. Okay, what else do we got? I'm just going to close the windows that we no longer need for the purposes of this stream. What is everyone else up to? You know what? Before we even get there, let's just go take some non-super chat comments so we can get in. Okay, well, you came up, Pasha Moyer. The common denominator of all your bad relationships is you. It's something to reflect upon. I was actually just had coffee with someone the other day and talking. Person says, everyone I date seems to be crazy, and I said, have you reflected a little bit? He said, okay, so maybe I attract a certain personality. It's funny. And I notice it. Look, I notice it from my own perspective. When everyone around me is a bad driver in the morning, it's typically because I'm in a bad mood. That was twice you read Idaho as Ohio. I don't even remember doing it. Sorry, people. I meant, anyways, at least everyone can revel in I don't think it's dyslexia. It might just be multitasking too many things. Conspiracy is only 6 months from being true. I recently tweeted out a funny one. France imposing lockdowns imposing stay-at-home orders because it's hot out. But by the way, oh God, hold on. You know what? I'm not going to be able to find that tweet fast enough, and it doesn't matter. France. Let's just do this one here. We'll go to Google here. France, stay at home, order heat. Outdoor events banned. So this was the outdoor events banned. This is actually not as much of a conspiracy theory as most people might even think. This article was posted, and I said, "Hey, conspiracy theory confirmed," as a joke, but not so much of a joke, because Justin Trudeau, Chrystia Freeland in Canada are saying, we're going to take the lessons we've learned from our response to COVID and apply it to global warming, to climate change. And then I said, oh, look at that. They're banning outdoor events in France. Conspiracy theory confirmed. Does everybody remember how many people died in the summer of, it was in France, I forget which summer it was, due to a heat wave? You guys are going to be blown away. Now that the government realizes they can exploit their own incompetence and the tragic loss of life that results therefrom to further empower themselves, they're going to do it on a going forward basis. France heat wave 2003. Some people are not going to know about this. European heat wave of 2003. This is 2003, by the way, 20 years ago. Record high temperatures across Europe in 2003 that resulted in at least 30,000 deaths. 14,000 in France alone. If only in 2003 they knew that they could actually just abuse of their powers to lock people at home. If only they knew that people could be induced into complying with that level of government tyranny if they were made to be fearful enough. If only. They didn't know that in 2003. Of course, a heat wave is not something that can be used to terrify a population as much as a pandemic. You know, there's no horror movies made about heat wave, although it might be an interesting horror movie nonetheless. It couldn't be a horror movie because it would not have that supernatural element to it. A heat wave is natural, even if it's the result of pollution. Heat wave is natural. Like devising and releasing a pandemic, that has horror aspects to it that allow such movies as Outbreak, Songbird. What's the other ones that were made? Contagion. There's no horror movie made about a heat wave, though I think it might be able to succeed if drafted properly. But there are horror movies about pandemics, outbreaks. If only they knew, all they have to do is terrorize the population into such crippling, agonizing fear that they will willingly stay home. They could have gotten away with it, but now they know that they can. In 2003, get this out of here, 30,000 people died as a result of a heat wave, 14,000 in France. They didn't lock anybody down because they didn't think they could. Now, they can, and they will. Outdoor events banned. Well, my goodness. By the way, take a wild guess as to where those 30,000 deaths occurred, by and large, in the 2003 heat wave. Take a guess, chat. Let me see here. I won't spoil the answer just yet. Let's remove this. Where would you guess the vast majority of those deaths occurred in France in 2003? There's only one right answer. Let's see which. That was a decent summer. Remember the episode of The Twilight Zone? Yeah, I think I do. Where was it, people? No. Oh, not in the cities. Not in homes. In old person homes. And I'm saying in retirement homes. Deaths, France, retirement. That's not how you spell anything. Retirement homes. Let's see here. If my memory is correct. Mostly the elderly. The heat wave, yada, yada, yada. Most of them the elderly, and I'm 99% certain most of them were in care facilities or retirement homes. Hey, it's very interesting. It's really funny how the government systematically fails to protect the most vulnerable. And when they do fail to protect the most vulnerable, again, what do? More laws, more punishing of the citizenry, more empowering the very same incompetent, corrupt government that allowed for the tragedy in the first place. From the heat wave to the response to the pandemic, to the Nova Scotia, to Uvalde, it's It's, once is an accident. What is it? Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is hostile action. I think that's the expression. Let's see what else we got here. Jagmeet Singh. Incompetent government. 10,000 days. 10,000 days. Indigenous people have been without clean drinking water. Let's prop up that government. That seems like the right, proportionate, responsible thing to do. Okay, just going to continue closing some windows. Oh yeah, no, this is the the article about the RCMP trying to leverage, using the Nova Scotia incident to leverage gun control. When authorities focus on leveraging criminal devastation for policy purposes, their investigation and response becomes so politically tainted, since the questions they are inclined to ask become politically motivated. Corruption from top to bottom. When you're trying to leverage something for a political end goal, it means you're going to focus on certain things and ignore other things, which means you're no longer in pursuit of the truth. You're in pursuit of agenda. And it's what we're seeing from beginning to end. It's not politicians saying, I want the solution. It's politicians saying, I want my solution, even if my solution is not actually a solution to the actual problem. Okay, so we've covered Uvalde, we've covered Nova Scotia. Okay, that's the 2 minutes of hate. The January 6th committee hearings are the modern-day embodiment of Orwell's 2 minutes of hate, exactly what the current government needs to distract from current government failures, and those who need the deceit will readily breathe it in with frothing lips and rage-filled eyes. Should have read that in Viva's golfing voice. Let me just close up a couple more here. Most deaths happened in care facilities in COVID and Katrina as well. It's amazing. First of all, it's why you also don't let your parents or your loved ones go to these facilities unless they are recognized quality facilities. Why would anyone think the government or government institutions are going to better care for your loved ones than you? I say this now. I haven't lived through it. I mean, I don't live with my parents are old, but not yet at that age. I don't think I would let them go to anything but the best, but I think I would sooner have them live with us. I think it's the right thing to do, but it's not necessarily feasible for everybody. But I think the government's going to care about your loved ones. They say they will, because the reason for which they say they will is for politically motivated reasons. But when push comes to shove, they're going to give themselves the raise, even if there's not enough money in the healthcare system. They're going to give themselves 3 raises. Jagmeet, looking at you. Elderly people during heat waves in U.S. either go to cooling centers or get fans, air conditioning units. Actor James Woods QT'd is quoted me. Not that I'm clout chasing, no, but I like James Woods and I would be very flattered. I'm gonna go. Does QT mean quoted or let me screenshot that? I take God bless yous. I accept God bless yous as currency. I'm not necessarily a believer in an organized religion, God with a capital G, but I love hearing God bless you and I love being called brother. I don't like being called dude. I don't like being called sir. And I don't like being called, there's another one that I don't like because it's artificial chummy. I feel it to be insincere chummy. It's not bro. I don't mind bro, but I don't like bro. I like brother. James Woods is fantastic. What's the one that I dislike being called? Sir. I hate being called sir. And Mr. Sir, whenever anyone calls me sir, I take it as an act of aggression. And whenever anyone uses my name to start a sentence, tweet or verbal, I take it as an act of verbal aggression. Okay, need to fix those places. At times they are needed. No, there's no question at times people can't stand living with, and there's no reason why also. God bless you, dude. Okay, well played, Mr. Steve VC. Not bud. Homie, I don't mind. Mr. Dude, guy. But typically everyone knows when someone calls you guy, it's to be antagonistic. Okay. Off of things that I don't like, let's get to things that I do like. Oh, C11, Bill C11. Okay, so let's just get rid of the January 6th. We don't need to see this one. Why did I have that window open so many times in the backdrop? StreamYard, we're doing very well today, people. We're covering everything. Listen, buddy. I ain't your bud. I ain't your bro. Let's go to Bill C11 is on the menu. So Michael Geist, I've invited Geist on. Maybe I'll reach out to him again. No, this is not to put him on blast. I think some people feel too risky. They feel that it's too risky to come on a Viva Fry live stream or a Viva and Barnes sidebar, because after all, we had Alex Jones on, so that makes this channel out there. The Alex Jones interview was one of the better interviews. We've had some. The funny thing is, you can have as many lefties or others as you want. People who want to demonize a channel don't care about the truth at all. They just care about cherry picking the one element so they can write you off and not have to listen to anything you have to say. We're looking at the same thing now. So Michael Geist, let me just show you who he is before we get there. What did I just do? Close that. Okay, Michael Geist is a lawyer practicing, law professor, my apologies, Canadian Research Chair in Internet and E-commerce Law. Smart guy. And he gave a talk, or he gave a presentation, because now the Bill C11 has passed the House of Commons and is headed towards the Senate. The sober second thought in Canadian politics, they better be sober and they better have a proper second thought on this bill. But he gave his presentation, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because I'm going to drive traffic to him.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. My name is, as you heard, Michael Geist. I'm a law professor at the University of Ottawa, where I hold the Canada Research Chair in Internet and E-commerce Law.
Okay, and he goes on. Now I'm gonna link it so that you can all go watch it. Drop in, say Viva sent you here. Boom shakalaka. The link is in the link to his blog. But he has come out and spoken out against this Bill C11, and rightly so. Rightly so, because this Bill C11, we've talked about it at length, wants to govern the internet under the Canada Broadcast Act, which would require online platforms to abide by Canadian content requirements subject to fines. It would compel the platforms to promote or suppress content depending on its very ambiguous, if even definable, Canadian content requirements, CanCon requirements. And it will nab up and apply to individual creators. This is what Michael Geist has to say about it. The Senate, I was pleased to appear before the committee together with the CRTC chair, yada, yada. And his entire speech is here. Okay, here we go. This is the important part. First, regulation of user content. When Heritage Minister Rodriguez, that's the new Heritage Minister, not to be confused with the old one. Oh, crap, I forget his name now. It'll come to me. Dubé? It wasn't Dubé. The minister, the other one there, the hemming and hawing idiot with the facial hair who was arrested for climbing the CN Tower. I won't remember his name. The other minister of heritage once said, it's not going to apply to individual users. That's not what we have in mind. It's not going to apply. So when we removed the exception saying it wasn't going to apply to individual users, don't worry, because it was never going to in the first place, which is why we included the exception that we subsequently removed. And then he later admits, yeah, it's going to apply to individual users if you act like a broadcaster. Hold on, it's going to drive me nuts if I don't get the name of the minister. Chat, what's the name of the minister? Oh, gosh, whatever, when it comes. With respect, many of the concerns remain intact, while the Section 4.1 exception for user content was reinstated, in addition to Section 4.1, which together provide the prospect of the Canadian Radio and Telecommunications Committee, or whatever it's called, the CRTC, regulations on user content were added. The bottom line is that user content is treated as a program, and the CRTC is empowered to create regulations applicable to programs that are uploaded to social media. Individual user content is going to be treated as programs subject to the authority of the CRTC under the Canada Broadcast Act. So you can go read the rest of this. The solution is obvious. No other country in the world seeks to regulate user content in this way, and it should be removed from the bill because it does not belong in the Broadcasting Act. In the alternative, remove all regulatory powers associated with user content, but leave in the potential for contributions by the user content platforms. I'm not sure that would resolve the issue necessarily, because what is going to be user content versus broadcasters versus what would be subject to the regulation in the first place? Second, a few comments on the overbreadth and uncertainty of the bill, which as currently structured, covers any audio visual content anywhere in the world. As Canadian Heritage Department memo on the issue states, Bill C-10, that includes video games, news sites. Oh, I'm sure the news sites was by accident. Niche streaming services and workout videos. The government says that some will be excluded in a policy direction, but won't release the direction until after royal assent. This is Nancy Pelosi level. Well, we need to pass the bill to see what's in it. You need to pass it before we tell you what's not going to be included in it. Further, last week, the government MPs voted down multiple amendments that would have established thresholds, including one as low as $25 million in annual revenue in Canada. So check out Michael Geist's blog post. And I just said more restrained than I would have been, because might be why I was not invited to speak. I would definitely have mentioned the corrupt conflict of interest that current legacy media has in terms of supporting this bill. And maybe I'm self-reflective enough to know when I can't control myself to my own detriment. It needs to be said loud and clear. This is a corrupt method of doing yet another favor for the government-subsidized media. This does nothing but help the flailing legacy media on a platform where they are losing, and rightly so, because it is, at least up until now, relatively a meritocracy of success on the internet. Nobody can just get up on television and get up on radio and compete with Bell, with Global News, with CTV, with Radio-Canada. Nobody can compete there. At least not the small people like myself. On the internet, it is a meritocracy. On the internet, it is people gravitate to where they want to go because the content is out there, the choice is out there, and they flock to what they like and they flock away from what they don't. So nobody's bound to watching radio and television for all of their information anymore. They go to the internet where it's free and democratized. So what better way to get eyeballs back on CBC, Radio-Canada, Global News, CTV? Suppress the voices that are succeeding on the hitherto unregulated platform. This is a bailout. This is a digital bailout for flailing Canadian legacy media. Trudeau already subsidizes CBC and Radio-Canada $1 billion a year. True, that is federal funding that comes regardless of which government is in power. It's $1 billion in funding for these industries, excluding COVID ads, government ads. The Trudeau government bailed out the legacy media to the tune of $600 million. This is a digital bailout for failing, rubbish legacy media on the only platform where it is actually subjected to meaningful competition and losing, but how? As CFUFFS, I may not be from Canada, but I know enough to say never give the Canuck government a loophole, or they'll notwithstanding the out of it. It was Cicero or Tilius. More laws, less justice. What was the damn name of the minister? What was the name of the minister? Oh, come on. Minister of Heritage, the guy with the beard who scaled the CN Tower to protest for the environment. Ministère. Oh, come on. Viva, get your stuff together. Minister of Heritage, former. Yeah, not Pablo. Who did he replace? Guilbeault. It was Guilbeault, this guy. How can you not trust a man with a smile like that? Okay, I'm sorry. Enough. I don't like Guilbeault. I believe he's fundamentally, egregiously dishonest. Let me see if I can find, hold on, I'm going to close this one down. Let me find the clip. Let me find the clip where he said this. Okay, this was the article. Maybe we're going to come back to that one in a second. Guilbeault interview C10 video. It was this one. This is the one. Okay. Where's the audio?
Broadcasters pay their fair share when it comes to Canadian culture. So it's about spending obligations.
Listen to this,
spending requirements. It's not about content moderation.
So I'm going to flip the question for a moment here, Minister, because it was important enough to put that exclusion there in the first place. Now it's gone. Why was it important in the first place to put it there?
We're not interested. I mean, it's not what the bill is about.
I mean, I hear you saying you're not interested, but there literally was an exclusion that was put in the original iteration of that bill, the thing that was reviewed, and then it got to committee, and bingo, bango, bongo, the exclusion is gone. So why was it important to put it there in the first place, such that now the committee has removed it?
Well, I mean, the committee decides what they want. The bill, first of all, the committee hasn't even finished doing its work in terms of the amendments. So we don't have a full picture of what the bill will look like when it comes back to the House of Commons.
I'm going to let this go because
would you like to see the exclusion back in there?
It's not necessary. I mean, so
if it's not necessary, why was it there in the first place?
Well, you know, we've worked on this for.
Just want to say one thing. Sorry. Ordinarily, if I were confident that Guilbeault did not have a speech impediment, I'm not saying this to be funny at all, or glib or facetious. If I were confident that Guilbeault did not have a speech impediment and that his stammering here was as a result of his insecurity and dishonesty, I would be inclined to make fun of it and point it out. I make fun of it in the sense that this guy's such a liar, he can't keep a sentence straight. I'm not convinced that Stephen Guilbeault does not have a speech impediment. So I'm not sure if this stammering, this inability to put together a coherent sentence is the result of dishonesty or a bona fide speech impediment. And so I don't make fun of that and I don't draw any conclusions from that. So just that. But other than that, I mean, listening to him try to defend the indefensible and weasel out of the answer is enough to make you want to pull your eyeballs out.
So if it's not necessary, why was it there in the first place?
Well, you know, we've worked on this for many months. We came up with what we thought would be the best possible bill, but bill can always be perfected. They will be amended. And it's not the purpose of the bill. So it's not required to be there because, I mean, this idea that the CRTC would start doing content moderation has no basis in reality. In its 40 years of existence, it has never done that. It doesn't have the power to do that. Bill C10 doesn't grant the CRTC the power to do that. So this whole conversation makes no sense.
But a former CRTC chair, Peter Menzies, has said,
makes no sense.
Quote here, granting a government agency authority over legal user-generated content doesn't just infringe on free expression, it constitutes a full-blown assault on it. That is from a former CRTC chair.
And I could quote.
So it goes on, but does anybody know, does Stephen Guilbeault have a speech impediment? Or is he actually just so flustered? That's not even a word. Flustered. Flustered. He's so flustered that he can't get a sentence together. I've heard him speak in French, and it's more fluid and it's more smooth. But you don't want to get caught in a situation where you are attributing to dishonesty what is otherwise a speech impediment. That's something that people have to be very careful about. Now, I just saw something in the chat. Nicole, I don't just like the doodle. Oh, I love it. Look at this. So Nicole sent me something in the mail. People, check this out. this is possibly, hold on. It's so, so beautiful. My kids were literally speechless. They literally gasped at how beautiful it was. It's so magnificent. It makes me regret having cut the hair in front of Winnie's eyes, but it'll grow back. And Pudge, I'm going to go to Gemst. For anybody who doesn't know what Gemst is in Montreal, Gemst. It's like, I think one of the last surviving framing stores and art stores. I'm going to go have it framed. Thank you, Nicole. It's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Look up Nathan Thurm tobacco lawyers. I know what you're talking about, STFU. And we got another one. I mean, okay, sorry, I got that. Nicole, thank you. It's absolutely, absolutely awesome. Yeah. Like, I was thinking of this. I don't have everything I want, but I certainly have everything I need in the immediate sense. And like, you know, what do you get for people when you want to get someone a gift and they already have everything they need, or you know that, you know, like I've had this dilemma with other people. What can I possibly get for them that they couldn't get for themselves? This is the paradigm example of something that is priceless. It's, here, I'll show everyone again. Oh, it's priceless. Look at this. Wait, there we go. Anyhow, it's amazing. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Nicole, sincerely. Okay. What else is there? I think we got through the main stuff. Let me go back to my Twitter feed, not so I can get back to this garbage, just to make sure in my Twitter diary timeline of things to discuss. Uvalde, more restrained, fine. Oh, tonight, Armchair Warrior, sidebar. It's going to be amazing. So tune in for that. Okay, so this is the notes that I was, mental notes being taken for the stories. Okay, can't discuss this on YouTube's. We're now finding out that in Quebec, allegedly, Horacio Arruda aurait caché des informations d'importance. Aurait is like allegedly did something. He allegedly hid information of importance or important information. That was our former health director that was advising François Legault when they were enacting and imposing their highly scientific COVID response, which included a curfew that Horacio Arruda himself acknowledged had no practical benefit to combating a virus, but would serve as a reminder to how serious the situation was. Yeah, that's it. Viva merch. You might want to go and check out the merch. Yeah, the merch store is working exquisitely well in terms of centralizing good service. It comes from getpressed.ca. Getpressed.ca is the brain, the engine behind this. I just realized you're not seeing what I'm seeing right now. Getpressed.ca, to give credit where credit is due, and the shout out to people who do great work in facilitating, organizing, and taking a load off of my back. It's amazing. Getpressed.ca, but merch store. If you want to support and get a shirt, because, you know, that's a good way to support and have something to show for it. Okay, Jagmeet Singh. Oh, listen to this. Let's just torture ourselves for a few seconds more before we leave.
Yeah, the president said last week that there's no inevitability around a recession, but there is a greater deal of market concern about exactly that. And I know that inflation is your number one concern, but can you talk a little bit about if you're doing anything at all to prevent a recession or a rise in unemployment?
So the way that we see this, and you've heard us talk about this, that we're in a moment of transition. We have seen we are in a unique situation with our with the historical gains with our economy. The way that we see it is unemployment rate has held steady at 3.6, which is.
By the way, do you notice the verbal diarrhea itch? Let's
see it as unemployment rate
here
with our economy. The way that we see it is unemployment.
The way that we see it, What an odd way to preface what would otherwise be a factually verifiable statistic. The way that we see it.
Rate has held steady at 3.6, which is also near historic.
What's the labor force? What's the press secretary's name? Press sec. What is the labor force? You know, having unemployment at a low figure when nobody's looking for a job, when your labor force is at historic lows, is not a good thing necessarily.
Lows. Business investment remains strong.
Look, I'm gonna go ahead and just say the press secretary has no faith in what she's saying, because she doesn't understand it, or she knows it's lies. She looks uncomfortable. She looks like she doesn't understand it or believe it. And if anyone thinks that does not come out in demeanor in the presentation, they're fools. I don't believe a thing of what I'm listening to right now, and I don't believe that she believes it. And she knows that I don't believe that she doesn't believe that she believes that I believe it, and they still say it.
Household balance sheets remain strong. There was an analysis that came out recently that showed middle-class Americans had an additional $10,000 in savings than before the pandemic.
What the hell did she just say?
10,000 business investment remains strong.
Listen to this and tell me what she just said afterwards.
Household balance sheets remain strong. There was an analysis that came out recently that showed middle-class Americans had an additional $10,000 in savings than before the pandemic.
There was recently an analysis that said that people had an extra $10,000 in savings than before the pandemic. Verbal diarrhea, dishonesty.
Another analysis found that all income groups had higher checking account balances at the end of March than they had pre-pandemic. So we see that the strengths that our economic strength that we have seen from this past year, from the action that the president has taken with the American Rescue Plan, with what we have seen with the historical gains, that is going to help us deal with a recession. Right now, we don't see a recession right now. That is not, we're not
right now, we don't see a recession. Of course, 2 months ago, we didn't see inflation. It was transitory. Trust us now, because we're not idiots. We're not the same idiots now that we were then when we said inflation was transitory. Oh, sorry, it's permanent. We don't see it. So you can never be wrong when it's based on your own blind tunnel vision.
Now, we don't see a recession right now. That is not, we're not in a recession right now.
Prediction? We're going to be in a recession in a month. And not just we as in the States, Canada as well. I don't look to me for economic advice. I'm just saying, if the past is prologue to the future, we don't see inflation. It's transitory. Oops, it's permanent. Yellen. We don't see a recession. We don't see a recession.
With a recession right now, we don't see a recession right now. That is not, we're not in a recession right now. Right now, we're in a transition where we are going to go into a place of stable and steady.
Can you believe they're now saying it's transitory recession? We're in a transition. You know, there's transition. There's transition from a caterpillar to a beautiful butterfly. And then there's a transition of food to feces. Which transition is she talking about? There's the transition of a dead animal to soil. I mean, which transition are we in right now? Are we going from the caterpillar to the beautiful multicolored butterfly that flies off into the sky? Or are we going from decay to rot? They're both transition.
Growth, and that's going to be that's going to be our focus.
That is among the most incomprehensible strings of verbal diarrhea that we've heard in a while. I mean, that is. I don't want to play the entire quote. If anything ever has deserved the Billy Madison meme, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response did you come close to anything that could even be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to that. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. I would play the entire clip, but I don't want anyone claiming the video because I showed too much of Billy Madison. Oh. I got blocked by someone else on Twitter. I just wish how could people post something and then block someone who responds to it? Someone posted in response to the CDC announcing that they're going to be approving the Fauci jab on infants aged 6 months to 5 years old. Someone facetiously ironically, judgmentally said, "Here come the anti-Veers right on cue." To which I retweeted and said, "Here come the, if you don't believe, you can read it. If you don't believe that we should be doing this on a demographic that is statistically not at risk for that for which they're getting this treatment, you're an anti-vaxxer." And then I get blocked. And the thing is, calling someone an anti-vaxxer, it's as bad as calling someone a racist. And people have to actually think about what they're accusing people of. You can't willy-nilly call people anti-Vs, racists, sexist. You're calling someone a word that undermines one of the most important elements of human decency. And if you're going to do it, you'd better have the receipts to prove it. And if you're going to do it, you'd better have the courage to deal with a little pushback from people who might not appreciate those types of accusations. I was having a discussion with someone who calls someone a white supremacist, a public figure. And I was like, okay, please show me your receipts. To which, the evidence was a picture of the individual doing the okay hand gesture. That was the evidence to destroy, or to, it was not a public, was not a public accusation, but that was to informally in casual discussion, to destroy someone's integrity, to attack their integrity, to attack their very essence of being a good person, call them a racist or a white supremacist. The evidence, a picture of them doing the okay hand gesture. And it led to a very long discussion. Do you know the history of the okay hand gesture? Now, I know that we have a very educated crowd, and you all are going to know this. Let me just get this in here so you can see my homework. I think most of you are going to know this. Okay hand gesture history. Do you all know that it started as a 4chan gag? As to 4chan, the people on 4chan saying, let's put this out there and let's get the left to believe, to retweet, to promote the idea that this is a white nationalist symbol. To get them to believe that it's a white nationalist because it's got the W and the P. The ADL ran with it. Now, I would love to know, by the way, it seems that the ADL now is recognizing in this. In 2016, the OK hand gesture acquired a new and different significance thanks to a hoax. Falsely promote the gesture as a hate symbol, claiming that the gesture represented, yeah, okay, fine. Okay. In the case of the OK hand gesture, the hoax was so successful that the symbol became popular trolling tactic on the part of right-leaning individuals who would often post photos of doing the hug. By the way, that doesn't make it a white supremacist gesture because you're being trolled for having been so stupid that you believed the troll in the first place. But this is how it's like the self-fulfilling prophecy of ignorance. Like, I was dumb. By you making fun of how dumb I was makes you a white supremacist. So whenever you do that troll, it makes you a white supremacist. And then I jokingly told the person, like, okay, well, if making that gesture is a sign of white supremacy, well then, someone better tell AOC. Uh-oh. Someone better tell AOC, because there's not just one of them. And by the way, it's really quite funny, actually. Someone better tell AOC. Someone better tell Obama. Someone better tell Trudeau. And then the person, then the retort argument was, they're just doing it in passing. It's not they're not posing with the gesture like that. And then I said, okay. Hold on. There was one that proved the point. Someone better tell this little white supremacist. I mean, the willful stupidity, or the willfulness, the willingness to blind oneself so that when Trudeau, Obama, AOC do it, it's not what they say it means when other people who they don't like do it. It is arguing from conclusions and not towards them. It is motivated reasoning, but there was an even better one. Hold on, I'll find it. I will find it. Well, here we got another white supremacist. Posing with the okay hand gesture. Hold on. Hold on. Let me just find the one. Well, there's an obvious one. Anyhow, I can't find the other one, but I think we got. Oh no, you know what? I have to look up okay gesture stock images. Look at this white supremacist right here. It's the quintessential motivated reasoning. Rules for thee, but not for me. When my side does it, there's always a good explanation for why it's morally and justifiable. When the other side does it, there's always a reason for why it's immoral and unjustifiable. Hilarious. It's hilarious. Viva, I visited Banff in 2008 and would love to go back. However, I don't see how with Trudeau's terrible policy for jabs. Yeah, imagine if you're unvaccinated, you couldn't come to Canada just as long as you quarantine for 14 days when you get here. No less than. Download the app. Download the app on your phone. ArriveCan. And be ready for government surveillance when you come to Canada. My goodness. I've had friends that have visited North Korea. I'm not going. I would, if I'm an American, and even if I'm jabbed, I'm not coming to Canada. Banff is beautiful. British Columbia, magnificent. You know what? Maybe we'll end on a good note today, so we don't have to end on stupid, bad, crap, bull, garbage. Yeah. YouTube. Viva Fry Zip. Check this out, people. 131,000 views. When did that happen? Hold on. Okay. I'm going to go. I did the longest zip line in Canada. And this is, for anybody who's wondering where the, in the intro to the vlogs, when you see the clip of me on a zip line, this is it.
All right. Walk down those stairs for me.
Ads. Come on.
Viva
Dave.
Fry? Yeah, Viva.
Canadians love home insurance from Square One.
Hold on.
In fact, 30,000 customer reviews rate us.
Selling the channel.
4.7 out of
I think at the time.
All right. I'm going to kind of sit down into your harness, bend your knees.
Oh my God! Ah! 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 Oh my! It was amazing. Yeah. So that was it. Do I have this here? The only problem with it, A, it was over too soon, and B, I got blown backwards, so I did too much of it back. I would have loved to have been facing forward the entire time, but it was amazing. So it's in there. People, okay, so you know what? I better go rest up, do my homework. All right, give it 2 seconds. Rest up, do my homework, and live tonight at 7:00 with Armchair Warrior. So, people, did I miss anything on Rumble? Let me see if I've missed anything on Rumble before we go. Armchair Warrior, it's going to be Russia-Ukraine focused. So if anyone's not interested in that, I can understand it, but it's going to be an amazing discussion. Armchair Warrior, a veteran with pretty meaningful experience and an author of some fantasy-like type stuff. So, okay. Thank you, Evan. Oh, we got this. Hold on one second. Contact by email. I think I sent it to you. Just me, Nicole. The question is this. Can I share your email address or website for commissions? That's the question. You know, let me wait 30 seconds just to see if Nicole wants me to share that. And if you do, I might not be able to do it right now because I don't think I have it in front of me. And I won't show the letter. But if I can share it, I'll post it on Locals because it's one more time, people. Oh. Look at this. Look at. Hold on. Okay, you know what? Here we go. Oh yeah, 4K next time, people. Look at that. It's pastel. Okay, that's it. Let me see if Nicole has given me permission to share the website. Well, okay, so people, first of all, James Topp is in Ottawa right now. He's got 3 days of events. Go to canadamarches.ca to see what the schedule is. I was supposed to go down today, but wasn't going to work out. I might go tomorrow or Friday for the day, but it's the kids are out of school and not the easiest thing to do. Go check out everything James Topp is doing. canadamarches.ca. He's live streaming, and Dave Paisley, live from the shed, should be rebroadcasting or streaming at the same time. Put Barnes on the zip line. Barnes doesn't strike me as being a zip line type. Freisters Unite. Okay, let me see if I can see Nicole. Either way, I'll get in touch with Nicole and see if I can share. For anybody who wants a commission, it's amazing. Okay, go. So we're going to see each other tonight, 7 o'clock, people. Thank you all. Snip, clip, share away. Wait. Yes, I can. Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to do it in a second on our locals community. Public posts for members and supporters alike. So vivabarneslaw.locals.com. 7 o'clock tonight, Barnes, Armchair Warrior. And for the rest of it, get out there, get some sunlight, exercise, and talk to people in real life. It's actually quite fun. Many suits left Topp meeting when lights went down. Interesting. I'm going to go follow up on that. Thanks for the 2 hours. It goes by so quickly. I can't get over it. Okay, go. Be well. See you this evening.